Good morning, guys. Morning. Okay. Excuse me. Going to start now. 1:30. Okay. Well, don't think we're going to do trade sent out today. But the market is not sort of good or bad trades. It's behaving, not just to me, to analysts and most people now. It just not behaving in any form of rationality. I want to give an example on the banks, right? We all know about Credit Suisse, and we all know about the SVB, went under. Now, what's happened now is One Republic's under problems now. That's American. A few others are as well. And 11 banks are going to come and help with the depositors, not the shareholders, as per normal. Right. So then it was to stop. Janet Yellen said that she was ex-chairman of the Fed, Labour Fed in this case, said that because of systemic damage that could do to the economic environment, they would help the depositors above $250,000. Now, $250,000 might seem a lot of money to you, but over 90% of the guys have got more than that. Now, the insurance covers their deposit up to $250,000. So they stepped in to say they'll cover everybody. There's a lot of venture capital businesses in there, tech openers and that sort of thing. You're probably giving larger sums of money. Well, that's all very nice. So what happened to other banks? Well, it said going forward, too big to fail, they would cover the deposits above $250,000, even if we weren't insured above that amount. So one guy piped up and said, well, what happens to a smaller, they're called community banks, a smaller bank there? Would it apply to them? Said that it wouldn't. So the person said, well, if you're going to deposit $150,000, why would you put in a community bank? Why would you put in a bigger bank? Because, got that protection. And her answer to that was, we don't encourage it. What sort of an extraordinary statement is that to make? The ex-chairman of the Fed to make? Is there anybody there would put your money into a large amount of money that's uninsured in the bank when you put another bank, the whole lot's insured? Of course you wouldn't. You put in the one that's insured, obviously. So anyway, so on that news, the market decided to take a big jump up. Well, that's a little bit like saying, hang on a minute, I've heard Joe Bloggs has got a car accident. And they found, oh, he wasn't killed, but had to chop both his legs off. Oh, right, let's go and celebrate, let's cheer. No, he's faster. He might be alive, but he's still far worse off than before. So why are you all celebrating champagne? Get my point? And so when these sort of things happen, one's extreme wear. I'm putting that out to you. Now, never in 1,000 years would I expect the NAS to come up to this particular area here. It makes no sense. It's right on that air resistance there. What is driving it? All I can put it down to is some sort of emotional relief that they thought it could be terrible news. So instead of being terrible, they're going to celebrate just very bad news, if you like. It can't be any more emotion, any more than that. To me, it's purely emotional. Because, you know, the guys out there are saying, go figure. What is it doing up there? Okay. So I'm not saying you should do it, because I was on that one as well, and obviously didn't work out, and I was a big advocate for selling it, but it still jumped up. Well, personally, I've gone in again at these levels. I just cannot see why any rational person will be thinking this economy worldwide is in great shape when it wasn't before the bank problems. Why would it be better after the bank problems? You get where I'm coming from? Unless I'm being thick or missing something, please help, because it's really not knocking my head in. It's doing my head in, to be honest. It makes no sense at all. It is quite nice. I'm glad $1 came out in the end. So that's quite good. So you should make a couple of bucks on that in the end. I assume you did anyway. It did jump. But here I'm coming from. It makes no sense. Okay, so yeah, the only one I looked at, but I didn't send it out today because the conference gets it. When you have this kind of rationality, it's not because you take a loss. Well, I'm talking about myself now. It's when it makes no sense. That's, you know, you think, well, anything can happen. You know what I mean? It's like, I just can't think of a more obvious example of that. It makes no sense. And that's why, when it doesn't, you can't exercise your skills. It's just not going. And we have to spend years doing this to pick up any point. You get my point. Okay, so the only other one I thought might be a possibility was maybe this one here, but even that doesn't seem to be doing indecision as well. Yeah, so even that, look at that sideways. So yeah, it just, yeah. So sorry guys, going to the weekend, I'm going to give you my best piece of advice. Be very wary, because rationality seems to be taking a back step to some sort of drunken hysteria, which makes no sense. Okay, that's my more little soliloquy. If anyone can add to that, or maybe I'm missing something, or you've done a bit of research, it makes more sense for you, help me out. I'm going to be humble enough to say, if you do know that, I'll put me out and say, because I don't know. Do I see some opportunities? Absolutely, I do, but I want to see some better rationality out there. Hear what I'm saying, guys? Anybody disagree? Anybody see it makes a lot of sense? So I'm missing something. I'm willing to learn. I'd rather be wrong and learn, you know, than what might be a pretty ego if you come up with stuff that makes sense to me, because then I'll learn. Thank you. But anybody on that can see that rationality. See my point? And what the is it the principle is it doing up there? No. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed with that news coming out, you'd have been buying the markets? Apart from Morris, who got on Amazon, well done, by the way. More nerve than me, that's for bloody sure. Well done. But still makes no sense. Doesn't want to do any bloody thing, and Tom did. She didn't buy it, actually sold it. But anyway, just to be technical. Morning, Morris. Yeah, we sold it. It doesn't do anything. Go cashier, chef. I'm in it as well. I've got position size right. I've only taken a 2% risk on it, and I'm in so my position size is not that large. It's better than micros, but it's not that large. But a minute, and look at this. So yeah, right? Came off nicely. It doesn't know what it wants to do. Morning, Mika. Yeah, I would have done in the end. The 10,000 jobs, a bit of it suddenly seemed to be coming to the party, which is probably strengthened a bit. But yeah, that happens. But yeah, I still think Microsoft will sell. Let's go to Microsoft. This is all over the place. Microsoft, here we are. Come on, guys, really got stopped that or not? Does anyone disagree? I know the price action is what it is, but take a step back. To me, that is a sell. That Nasdaq is overcooked. Banks are coming under pressure. High interest rates are knocking their lenders, so they're defaulting on their loans. You all know how a bank works. You know, you put money in a bank, they don't sit there in a vault. They just lend it straight out again. And the guys borrow it. Now they can't pay back because they haven't done the maths. They can borrow at 5%, but if it goes to 8%, now they can't afford it. A lot of people got caught in mortgage bonds on that one on housing. That's where you got negative equity. The interest rates were low. They borrow the hill to buy their dream house, not understanding that interest rates increase, and unless they built in a sort of a guarantee interest rate, which can be quite popular one state in the UK, we guarantee it. Of course, they suffer. Interest rates come down because they're stuck with the one with guaranteed. But apart from that, interest rates go up with the borrowed money, you start defaulting, and that's a problem for the banks, and that's what's been happening. Business has been suffering big time as well. This is not a healthy climate to be buying into. One Republic. I think it's a pop group called One Republic, but that's the name of the bank. Don't ask some One Republic songs. Boy bands, I know it's a boy band. Because I know one of the guys there came from like Rory McIlroy, the golfer. Otherwise, I've never heard of him. But that doesn't mean anything. Probably sell billions of records. I've actually never heard of him, except for that. But yeah. They did stress it's come from various funds, not the taxpayer. I suppose there's that. They didn't give them due. They didn't bail a bank out. They just said great liquidity. But what's the point of having insurance? To 250,000, or in your own life insurance, doesn't matter. Is if you suddenly decide, no, it's not enough. I don't want to claim $1 million, I only 5 million. Oh, well, no problem, we'll provide it. Yeah, it's just again, systematic risk to the banking system. That's fine, but if you're going to play that game, what are you doing to the smaller banks? Who would join them? Unless you've got small amounts, that's fine, because it's insured anyway. So we got Farley in business, we've got Mika in business. I'm sorry, Mika, I'm not going to invest $1 million with you because you're going to guarantee me $250,000. I've got full government guarantee with Farley of $1 million. I'm not going to give it to you, Mika. I'm clearly going to give it to Farley. You know, it's crazy. I mean, you don't have to have an IQ above 10 to realize that. Never mind these guys who are obviously a little bit smarter. Incredible. Okay, so yeah, it might be damaged. I'm sticking with guns. I see downside on that now, or it's simply back in the moment. What could we talk about now because it's closed? But I think that's going to hold, and I see downside. And I see when it's going to happen. Someone's going to wake up with a hangover after the party last night and suddenly realize this is not good. Okay, so that's it. Sorry, but yeah, it's not negative. It's just I'm just a bit bewildered. That's all. Why is that funny? You're a clever guy. You give me a reason, mate, because it's above my mental pay grade. You give me a reason. You're a clever guy. What do you reckon it is? I saw I'll reach you guys a little bit. It's nice that people can chat. It makes it a little easier. If you want to chat, you can, but
thank you, Roger. You unmute me now. Good morning, all. I really are slightly confused. So my assumption is that with the guys removing now their money out of the banking system, what do they do with it? So they start buying then all the shares. So if you have a look on my watch list on all the American shares, there's not a single share that went down.
Listen, go. Wait till you finish. Carry on.
So that is an assumption. I can't see on any other reason why all of a sudden all this jump, and then the NAS jumped tremendously. The Dow went up, FTSE went up, DAX went up, all the indices went up. With that, the Hang Seng last night went up with the Nikkei. So it's a positive market in a correction bull run or something. Not sure.
It's correction, a bear run. Yeah. Okay, get back to what you said about deposits. Right. Number one, you're not suddenly take your money and slang it on the market for the hell of it. Well, they might do it emotionally. But number two, where are you going to put your money to take profit? You're not going to put it under the bloody bed. That's even more dangerous, and it gets found out about unless you spend a fortune on security, you're going to get robbed. Just wait for a minute, Etienne. So number two, those deposits now on the bigger banks have been guaranteed by the government, even above $250,000 going forward. There might be a run from bigger accounts in smaller banks. Sorry to bring Mika and Fani back into it. I've got $1 million in Mika Bank of Tennessee, for instance. That's a community bank, small banks, yeah. That I might suddenly withdraw maybe 750 or just over that and bung it into Fani Bank, which will give extreme problems to community banks or the Mika Bank. Sorry, I'll make it for you in there. You know what I'm saying? But it's still going to have your money somewhere. You can't just put it under the bed. So the deposit's got to be there. It becomes, so why would that happen anyway? So that's some sort of psychological aspect of what you're saying there, but it doesn't really happen as effective. I mean, anybody, we're not talking about being particularly clever at this. We tell them to say, so hang on, we've still got bank deposits, seems to be all right. I did a couple of experiment withdrawals, didn't seem to be a problem. That's been out there. So it might shift to a bigger bank to get that covered. Well, that's fine. What am I going to do with the market? The market's clearly pretty close to recession, or I think it already is in a recession out there. It's looking pretty bearish as we speak. So I'm going to sling my hard-earned money now, when I've been guaranteed by the government on the deposit side, into suddenly going into shares which are looking fairly bearish. No, I might go into shares and sell them short, but if you're going to equity, you can't do that. So you have to go and buy them. That's not a good enough reason. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. So I'm sorry, guys. It just yeah. What else can I say?
Roger, but there must be some money coming from somewhere to have the demand for the shares.
That's completely obviously, absolutely. I mean, you can't go up without people buying it. Absolutely. But at the same time, absolutely. But I just can't figure out what the major reason on a rational basis. People do daft things in panic, whatever IQ they've got. That I get. But after a couple of days of just taking a breath when the liquidity is there, and it clearly you try to draw money back, why would you suddenly rush to do that? Clearly a lot of people have, a large amount have done that. I'm just trying to figure the rationale. I certainly would not. And if I did, I think I'd rather put it in some secret vault if I had to, rather than risk banging onto a highly risky, overcooked market, which might lose that way, which is, then you won't get your money back. Or I might say, oh, it's probably safe in the bank now, I'm covered. I'm talking to the guys who $250,000. And if I'm not happy about that, it's quite clearly on extra questioning, because she didn't volunteer that information. It was pulled out by a person. Are you saying, Janet, together that blah blah blah, and she's the bigger ones? So then you say, well, why or not? I'm shifting, mate. You get my point. That's anyway, there it is. Right, I'm looking at this movement with the yesterday peg. Feel maybe chasing these account levels. I'll be waiting. I'm certainly, we'll take one. What's the close one? GBP USD. Dollars now come off a bit, whatever the reason for that is, to 104, which is serious, slightly helps the market. I'll give you that. But it hasn't been that radical. Would I be going in and buying the GBP against the USD at this stage of the game? Not sure about that. What about selling it? Well, the dollar's come off a bit. I'm not too sure about that. Try the daily. All right, it's easing up into the buy zone. Is that dollar going to continue forward a week? The pound, where's the pound coming from? The government bank really stepped in and said anything particularly. Where's that coming from? That is just moving around, bit up and down, some purely on technicals, some purely on emotions, and some the rest basically, I don't know, some suck, I suppose. But yeah. Okay, you're not going to miss much, Dirk, so don't worry about it. I think it's going to be a bit of a lackluster training today. Maybe cheer each other up with a few funny jokes, a bit of banter. But to me, it very much is go figure. So I'm not going to come up with any person unless I change my mind and see something brilliant come up there. Having said that, I still think Microsoft is now ready to be shorted down. But I'm sticking to my guns, and maybe I'm going to stick with a ship that slowly sinks and I go down with it, that these marks are overbought and they're setting up some pretty good sell opportunities for those guys who are not in equity but in derivatives that can sell short and make up for it. Not a problem, Nico. Okay. I'll be honest, I've gone back in the Nasdaq as a short as well. But I'm not suggesting after that happens. But this is my point. Yeah, but I see that's what's going to make it go back to 13,000. But the lack of sense push it up there. I mean, come on, guys, let's go back now. We just heard. Well, come on, Farley. You just heard right now. We'll go back in time. Pretend I've just got some release for you here. Banks are in trouble. Should we start buying? Or we think we start selling it? You get my point. Or it's like it's now gone to level 8 load shedding on Eskom. We've got a big fat strike on. Transnet's not running. They might have to go to level 10 or something because they can't get the coal. Another minister has been found is full of fraud, etc. That's a good idea. Shall we start buying the rand? You get my point. So what you do is you sell the rand, and the rand suddenly strengthens quite a lot. You get my point. I can't blame me. Can't blame you. You know what I mean? Well, you get my point. I'm just extremely frustrated. You'd never guess, would you? No, you'd never guess I'm frustrated. So I'm informing you, I'm effing frustrated. Plus, to be honest, on a sort of personal side, I don't like my trades going wrong. And if I know I accept the occasional one, it has to make sense. When you get several going wrong, like it's happened the last couple of days, it's not happy for me either. And there's a lot of guys out there facing the trades, and that hurts psychologically more than bloody money does. Don't like, nobody does. You don't like letting people down. You feel letting people down. And they don't sort of sound like they're just making an excuse out of the markets, that and the other. In the end, yeah, you feel in the way you have. But trust me, I'm not happy about it. It's not nice when the guys try a few of your trades and they don't seem working out. I can't help it. I'm a human. I'm hurt by it. I don't like it. I want to say I like to say screenshots. Hey, thank you, Roger. I'm battling before, now that you've really helped, blah, blah, blah. That's what I live for. I'm not trying to be able to sing. I'm not worried about that. That's really the big incentive. Me doing this, I enjoy it for that reason alone. I'll probably do it forevermore. Till the man in the sky takes me. London, yeah, I've just been saying London. No, it doesn't make no sense. The Nasdaq is still a short. I think your FTSE trade, well done. It's still a short. It doesn't make sense. So what that is going to push that to 30,000? I do not know. Is on the buyers and sellers. You go back to the technical, perhaps a little about what the buyers and sellers are up to. There's quite a bit of major resistance around this level. So I'm not saying you want. I got stopped out. I've gone back in. I've shorted this thing. Well, Rick, to be honest now, is it more fun to you, or do you have more fun beating enjoying it? Is that right?
I enjoy it. It's nice. It's just not so good for my portfolio as such. Money management.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, the portfolio is a byproduct of this extraordinary sort of carry on. Now, the whole idea is to enjoy it and get paid for it, not enjoy it and it's costing you. You're not on holiday. You're not. This is not a casino. Then you expect to lose. You're there for a bit of a flutter. This is supposed to be a skilled area. And I'm being upfront, maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm a little bit confounded at the moment. And someone is supposed to be a host, supposed to be able to advise, it should be providing the answers. And maybe I'm shouldn't be telling you all this, but I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't bloody know.
But honesty is the best policy, sir.
Yeah, well, sometimes. I went to the big boss the other day and said, "My God, you're an ugly bugger," and he fired me. So sometimes, and he is an ugly bugger. So sometimes it's not. I'm only joking, but yeah, I'd say the only time you lie is when tax required. Like saying to your wife, "What do you think of my new dress? God, you look ridiculous in it." That's honest, but it's not probably required. Oh dear. Okay, this is a dollar yen for spell. About that. Well done. See, Anthony, you maybe had a stop and your financial arse was rescued. Not saying you should start making wider stop. Well, as long as you have a stop, I suppose you can make a wider one. You start getting cute trying to trade without a stop. Put on the daily. If you want to short it, you can, but I'm not keen. Is it dollar going to hold above 104? You know, we don't. In fact, last time on mine, which I think would be probably better, is looking for a range trade, buying and not getting too cute with it. Buying it right about these levels here, well, about 85 levels, something like that. Probably right about these levels, actually. Maybe a stop down here, a decent wide stop, maybe take it up there. If I was going to this, I'd rather look at a buy and a sell on this one. But I'm just bloody scared of this market at the moment. But I'm pretty damn sure I won't be shorting it now. That's in the same world, Nico. This is actually not necessarily now the space, there's no up or down. The market shifted offshore, but not offshore to off-world. But yeah, in theory, what goes up comes down, unless not necessarily what goes down will come up. By the way, a lot of shares out there when the company goes bust are now worthless. So yeah, but what goes up, profit taking is going to put it back at some stage. Nothing will go up in a linear move. Not even Nasdaq's going up from a few rands to about 4,000 or 5,000 at one stage a share. You know what I mean? It did have some pullbacks on the way, but yeah. Yeah, you're betting on the dollar a lot. It's a bit of unknown. Remember next week's interest rate. Everyone's following that quite a lot because they don't want more banks having trouble with their customers not being able to pay back their loans through higher interest rates. It's good for savers. The majority of people worldwide are not savers, are living hand to mouth basically. Prices are getting higher and the wages in a lot of cases. Some of them are for the higher echelon savers. I'm going to be horribly honest, I've saved a bit, but that's not the point. The point is that most people living paycheck to paycheck, and any start big increase on their loans, they're paying off debt, is when you start getting into problems like Escom. Yeah, shitty for everyone the last while either. And it's to say, you've been a member of the trading, we've gone through this, and it's just, yeah. Most people are taking a bit of a hard time moving later. Okay. ADNZD. Well, it's in the short zone. We tried to move up yesterday, sellers came in. Tried to move up today, sellers came in. The shorter 10-day, moving average seems to be holding at the moment. Sellers coming in. I'm not sure, looking at the buyers and sellers without even looking at the ADNZD, just looking at that buyers and sellers, what they're doing via the movement of the candle, tells me that as much where this market's going as I very well do. I'm not sure I'll be shorting it now. You want to short it or buy it? No, buying it. No, I won't buy it. I think I know what you come from the buy. I think could have a good case for it. Business sell zone down here, but you've got to stay where people thought it was overvalued. Look what happened. Could be right there. But the price action ain't back buy or sell at the moment. Anybody disagree on that? Anyone see this as a buy? Anybody? Just wait on for the answers. Remember, you've got to interact. It's a forum. And that's in great detail just to get feedback on it.
I was also looking on it for a long, but now you pointed out the long weeks, which make me thinking, and I'm going to the Forex strength, and it seems that NSD and AUD is similar in strength, almost exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe that's why it's hoovering. Not too sure.
Well, that's exactly it. And if I look at that, I'm not too sure. A lot of guys look at that, not too sure. I think there's more ticks to leave it alone than to take a trade on it. And I'm not so sure that if I had to, that I'd be buying it. Actually, maybe it might come off a bit. But that's such an enormous maybe. I personally could leave it alone. And if you go buy it, you come right. Well, I'm glad you got lucky. Thank you. Great. I'm happy for you. If you short it, you come right. I'm happy for you. I'm gonna keep my. I'm not touching it. No. Well, if you say so, then maybe you're right. I'll stick to my guns. I'm not going for it. But if you see a comfort zone in going for that, well, there you are then. Certainly get a risk reward. Shouldn't be a problem there to take it down below here. Easy enough, 70 pips. Going for about maybe 100 or so. Easily, I can take that maybe to here. Can't take to there. So work. Take down here. That'll work maybe to there. You can certainly get a risk reward and buy it. But good luck, mate, if you do. That's all I can say. Put an R on, but on for you guys. If you want, to put the R on with pleasure. But it's your decision, not mine. I've made my statement. Right? Do you want to put an R on? Do it if you like. 1.0860. We've got a minute. I want to discuss a little bit of a strategy idea of these up and down markets. We've got a minute. Should we go through it with you? See, maybe have a look at it. But just remind me on that. Okay. Those who want to take it, go for it. I've made my case. A couple of people say they're doing. I'll put it down because Amari's trade comes right. Well, Amari's it doesn't. Well, there it is. Who's going to take it? Man, look, you got some nerve there, my friend. I really hope you come right. That's what I call, I want you to come right, but I don't think so. And if you do come right, they call that an empirical victory. Means you believe that's going to happen, but you want to be wrong. Okay, well, there you are. You take it, there you are. Let's move on. What's that? GBP something like that? You do that? Second. GBP AUD. No, I don't think so, dude. Up to you. That's your decision. I think leave it, but it's up to you. If you watch your pennies after being smacked by the Nasdaq, I'd be a little bit cautious. I think I want more odds on my side before I went in after that. Okay, GBP AUD, something else we want to buy or sell it. short. Yeah, well, obviously in the buy zone, but that could be overvalued, don't forget. Like I mentioned before, it's a sell zone, could be undervalued. The 10 seems to be holding, so it's quite useful, the 10 days, quite useful. Well, this support seems to be holding. Don't know what's the pound's doing, it's possibly something I don't know about. But before I rush to selling it, there's quite a bit of support there. I can put a line to make it more clear. Fair bit of support there. Technically speaking, with it being held, it might not get some upside. Again, I'm not keen. I'm not keen. But anything, I think might be possibly some more upside. Why the pound? I don't know. Sensibly, agree. Downside makes more sense to me. I personally, the pound, with all the debts and problems they got and the social welfare costs they've got, I would probably back the Australian. Looking at that on its own, on its entirety, on the fundamental basis. Technical basis, it's the exact opposite. Technically, that's a buy. Got rejected, but that's a couple hundred pips away. Might go up there and get rejected again 200 pips later. You care. Who likes this one as a short? Anyone like this as a short? Okay, if you like it, I'll put the R up with pleasure. Dieter, Schumer, Yulin, Israel, anybody like this as a short? Jutas, some of the other guys. Don't get accused of leaving anyone out unless you're all there to, you know, all part of it. No RR? Well, so put it on an RR, stick it down, I'll put it up. I'm not going to do it otherwise. Okay, I'll come back to it. Okay. The only one I think is a possibility, but there's a sell on this thing. Stop up here, in fact, slightly wider stop. Stop up here and take it back down here somewhere. It's the only one I think that I would probably back. But even then, it's not as common as it was maybe a few days ago. Okay. Oh, you did? Oh, well, then thanks for coming back on that. Wait for confirmation. Okay. That's the only one I think has got a possibility with a nice wide stop above the 100 and the 200. It's clearly a downtrend, you can see that. And the Swiss franc, Credit Suisse, no Credit Suisse, looks like that's a lot of that's going to be rescued anyway. So, yeah. Looks like the market's going to look after it because the Saudi back has pulled out. And to be honest here, it's been keeping out for a while. I wanted to push it yesterday, but my confidence levels are a bit on the low side. You're human, sorry, you're human. I'm human, I can say, we all are. So Etching quite likes it. We'll put it up and see if you like it. Excuse me. I want a wide stop, by the way, so it's going to be expensive, but rather that gets stopped out in the noise. Make it a round figure. Doesn't have to get there. Don't forget, doesn't have to get there to make a decent profit if it works out. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've taken it already this morning. Oh, it's doing. Look. Not very well. It's about the same as I got in, round about, maybe slightly down, I don't know. Anyway, there we are. 200 bucks, that's the only problem. Got to have plenty of free margin because it's going to be 200 rand a micro. But I'd rather have that wide stop than any tighter. So if you can't afford the 200 or you haven't got enough free margin, well, decision's made for you. Anyone want to do this one? Best I've seen so far, but well, I like Microsoft for a short, by the way, whether you got knocked or not in it. Anyone want to do this, or we're going to leave it? I'm not sending it out. I've had a chat this morning. We want to take a bit of a breather because a lot of guys obviously a bit upset at the moment. Because remember, I get a lot of guys coming in with some rather ridiculous promises of what's going to happen, and it usually ends up back on my bloody desk. I was told they're going to be 90% winners, and what's happening now, what you doing, blah blah blah. I keep myself out with my ideas. I will admit to the responsibility of it, but still, I think I'll take a bit of a breather on out there. You can say it's on Monday. Anyone else? Etienne, you go. Okay, I'll write that down, sir. And, give me a moment. 1.1258. 1.1368. 1.1 all the O's. Use O's. I really smart use O's. You know, picking up the slang. My it comes off. Someone will discuss a minute, Vicky, with you guys. I think people will deliver themselves. You can't make money. Nico, I wish people listen to that more and more. I wish they'd copy paste that and print it and put it above their desk. Absolutely. The trouble is, I hate to say it, a lot of it, guys come to this usually under some financial area where they hate their job or a bit of a jam, and they want very big, quick profits. And unfortunately, that's where the market is not the most sympathetic place out there. The market has. I've just flashed my accounts on the euro dollar or something. My first thing is overexposed. And if they said they double their money on this, it's brilliant in the last 24 hours. Unless they've got a phenomenally brilliant fundamental, that could have occurred to boost. They're in the right position size. But over 90% of the time, it's because they get overexposed, and that it worked this time, might not the next. You know, one person on the first trade went into the normal Dow instead of the micro, as you mentioned in the signal, and it came right beautifully. She made about 66% in a day. Don't think she realized how lucky she was. I mentioned that, and she really understood. But that was right. That was she was up closely overexposed, but didn't realize, and it came right. Which is exactly what does happen. You get a good run, Nico. Yes, they do occur, guys. Yes, good runs. You start thinking, oh, why have I already made 1,000? I could have made 2,000. You start doubling up. And then that's when the situation, that's emotion again. Always remember there's millions of people out there with different emotions as well as money and strategies and takes on it. And sometimes, quite frankly, remember the bigger boys, the Bloombergs, that have access to information much quicker than you guys do. Before it's released to us, they get it first, and they often acted on it by the time you get it. Anyway, so there it is. Now, I've just discussed something. If you don't sound too much, it doesn't matter, but if you do, I want your information on this. If you notice, we say, let's say, a minimum risk reward of 1.5 upwards. Okay? So what is that telling you? Which is close to entry point? The target or the stop loss? Obviously, the stop loss is closer. Do you get my point? So that's often the case. Now, if you modify and you're on it, that's fair enough. A lot of guys don't try to trade on, don't know that. So often they get to the stage where they're stopped out because it goes up and down. As we know, the markets are sort of a bit directionless. And you got this, look at this, this is click goes to that, goes up and down, but the closest one is here. So it seems to be the more likelihood that's going to hit than that, unless you get the trade right. And a lot of times it does, goes back up and stops them out. Happened to gold other guys the other day. A lot of guys made some profit of gold, but because they modified. But a lot of other guys didn't, simply because it came down, brilliant, and went up. I've seen some of these guys out there when they sell their tips, etc., and they get free ones to start to get you on. They say, well, you go to premium, pay for them, you get this, that, and the other. Well, I'm telling you right now, whether premium or not, whether VIP or not, Doesn't just say we're going to send you out a better signal, we've done the best we can. What happens after that is completely out of control. The good one might turn to be a bad and a baddie, or the doubtful one might turn around and be a beaut. We don't know. So I was thinking maybe instead, this is just a radical thought to you guys checking out there. We have, like a lot of these guys, a way of TP1, TP2, TP3. Now, on that basis, you've got to have a bit of a discipline involved here, and you've got to have a bit of time. If you haven't got the time for it, you won't be able to do it. Where you say, right, your stop loss is 100 pips away, so the TP is 100 pips. So TP1 is about a 1-to-1, 100 pips away. TP2 maybe 150 and TP3 maybe 200. You get the idea. Now, if you put a TP in 100, it's going to get knocked out. So you'd have to re-enter again. So what you could do, if it gets there, you put the TP1 as a horizontal line. Okay? If you've got this, I can knock it off now. You can put a horizontal line. And if it gets hit, you can do two things. You can modify your, number one, modify your stop loss to entry. And number two, partially close your trade. So let's say you're in with 3 microns. I can't do 1 micro, that's not good. Close one of the microns. Let's say it hits TP2, close another micro. You've got 1 micro left, and you've modified your stop to TP1, then to TP2. So you're now left with 1 micro on board, a third, in other words, left in your position on board, and you're aiming now for TP3, and your stop loss is at TP2. Do you get what I'm on about? And what do you think? Because I think a lot of these guys are out there are all talking about must have a 2-to-1 risk reward. Means if you win, you know, you make 2 rounds, if you lose 1 round. But a lot of the times, the winning trade turns out the loser because they haven't modified or whatever, and they're hanging on to that TP down there. Okay, and in the end, it hits the stop loss there because it doesn't get that far before it bounces back up again. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm thinking that might be an alternative theory for a suggestion. What do you think of it? See, quite a few people do that, you know. So, okay, so in other words, yeah. Now, clearly, you've got to have at least, no, if you're going to work on that 3 TP job, at least 3 micros. It might have 6, 10, 9, or what, it doesn't really matter. But you can't do it on 1 micro, silly thing. Now it happens. Go and get that router. Go and get that router, Tommy, and then you can stay with the radio. Okay, good. Yeah, so what do you think? So in other words, you're going to go into this trade now. All right, we're going to do a slightly different one now. Sorry. Right, we're going to you're going to do a short, for instance. We'll stick with the TP up here, and that is how far away. Put 100 pips, so therefore we put the stop of the TP at 1.1260. You get it? What? Talking rubbish there. Short, but that's complete rubbish. 1.1260. Is that right? Yes. What's going to look at? 1.1260. Is that right? It is. $1.1160. For goodness sake. Keep looking at the stop loss. I'm so fixated on that bloody thing. The entry. There we are. A 1 for 1. And then you're going to put a line there. You get it? And then we'll put another one down here. For instance, that's not exactly 100 pips away. We'll put another TP in. We'll call that TP2 here. And maybe we can put a TP3 here. Something like that. Okay? So if that gets hit there, you're not out because you'll have the TP here will kick you out. Forget sets kicks out automatically. So if it comes down to here, you take part of your profit. You're in whatever. It's got to be 3 times that. part your profit, modify that to this area here, take it down to here, you close part of it, move your stop to here, it goes down this far, you move your stop here, and then it'll automatically close you out on that one there. You get the idea? I've used Ichimoku Cloud for years, about 3 years now. Yeah, there's some will do that as well. If you look at the weekly, say a buy, a daily, a sell, a 4-hour neutral, they do all that, yeah. I think it's totally oversold. So Frank agree on that. This is there for trade that you may need a hold of it. Yeah, that might be a hold. There you are then. So what about that for an alternative? That sort of backs up a little bit what I'm saying. So what do you think of that for an idea? Any comments on it? But remember, you've got to understand the mass. You've got to have an account that can handle going 3 times, at least minimum 3 micros, and you've got to have the time to actually check it, you know, and then modify your stop. You must be working, you can check it and just further modify it. Didn't take 2 seconds, you know what I mean? What do you reckon? It's an idea anyway. Let's have some feedback on this session going to the weekend. Anyway, what about the strategy I'm talking about? What's the comments on it? You quite like it? Anybody else? Let's have some comments. Let's have, you know, how many trades apart from this one? Maybe have a bit of interaction on this and discuss it. Maybe come up with ideas where we can refine it and get it in a better one. Because at times like this, you get determined you're not going to be beat by these buggers. I'm not going to be beat by these sods. It's the sods beating the market. Just maybe revise a couple of ideas, tweak them a bit. Because as I say, when you have it 1.5 to 2 times away from the path of least resistance, or the closest area, is obviously the stop, so far much closer than the target. And I think that might be causing some hassles. Well, Nico's been using it, finally likes it, Munda likes it, Etchen likes it. So not a bad idea. So maybe we'll try going forward. The problem is I can't put it out there on the, what you would call it, or when the trade set out, because unfortunately I haven't got enough people educated enough to understand it. So maybe the guys here. Yeah. Just remind me of that going forward. If we come up with another one, probably won't be till Monday, but we can always do it. And let's say, okay, let's take this off. Let's look at gold. Here's a good example of doing it. There's a gold, I forget the name, but I don't really use it much. That's a lot of the name of it. Often has a very tight, short TPs and type 1-for-1 sort of thing. And they'll claim a winner once it's TP1. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't get to 2 or 3, they call it a winner. Okay, something that line there. So maybe you can look at gold maybe as a short from that point of view, make it a tighter one, maybe 1940, which is what's quite a long way away, isn't it? So it's still about $14, $15 away. And then maybe a TP would be maybe 1912, eh? Yeah, then your TP would be there. And if it bounces up, you take it. If it doesn't, then you put the TP in there and so on. Maybe that's an idea. If you believe in the short, you might still believe in the buy. My worry at gold, probably a bad example, is I think the dollar might recover a bit, the yields might go up a bit. The problem is they had to borrow money. Remember we talked about that? They had to buy bonds to get this liquidity going, which means the yields obviously went down. If yields go opposite direction to the bond. Buy more bonds, the yields go down. Which had a little bit of a negative on the yields, which helped the market a little bit, but they seem to the moment be recovering a bit. They covered a bit earlier on this morning, going into last night. But the bottom line is, my worry with gold is with these bank worries coming out, people often go to gold. So that might answer your question a little bit. You're having a problem with the bank, you're not very sure of it. Well, I'm banging onto the market with a big wire of that. Maybe you should go and say, have it in Krugerrands. And you don't have the Krugerrands in your house. The company or whatever, they steal them, I suppose. And they're supposed to have a security bank vault, which you pay storage fees, like an insurance, if you like. And then rather get your money into Krugerrands till things settle down. That might be an alternative. So that's probably what people are doing, and certainly buying gold bullion, which institutions can, and the individual can't. Not allowed to, it's illegal. That still could be a fear factor pushing the gold up. So bottom line is, I'm not sure I'd buy and sell at the moment, but it's an idea, okay? Okay, now let's go back to the NAS. Go to the micro one. And if you've been burnt by it, probably one of the last thing I look at is the NAS. But I don't know. I still think it's going to come on. Anyone want to buy the NAS? How's that? Probably a lot want to leave it alone. I get that as well. But what do you think? Even if you've been hit by it and you're hurt by it, you're not in the mood. Well, if you're not happy, don't do anything until you get confidence back.
Yes, mate. I want to buy the Nazi, but I wonder if we can still get a better price.
You think it's going to go back up here, do you?
Yes, mate. But I don't know if it's gonna break through there, or we still have a chance to get a better price.
What do you think, guys? Back in the bull run, the NAS. That's what seems to be happening. Bit of resistance now. Get a better price. Buy it. Maybe from around these levels. Take it further up to 13,000 or something. What do you think that's for an idea?
Ken, why do you think of buying the NAS? Is it because it's in the buying zone?
Yes, and remember, indices are going inversely correlation with the US, and with all these banks flopping, we might see it going up in the long time. And look at that, I said yesterday, that moving average crossing over, the smaller one crossing over the bigger one. It's a bullish sign on a longer term basis. I don't know what you think, mate.
Does that convince you, that, Mark Farney? Does that convince you, that comment?
No, for me, I understand what Ken is looking at, and with the crossing of the 50 and the 200, I understand the way you technically look at it, but I'm really very indecisive in the sense that I think this is just a retracement on an overall bearish market, but not too sure because I'm confused at this point in time. The technicals and the rest doesn't gel properly for me.
I'm totally with you on that, Farney. Doesn't gel properly for me. It makes no sense. If you never come, makes no sense. Ride with it. It's like investing in Jerry Springer show. Everyone ever seen it? If I came out that's an investment idea, you'd probably laugh at me. Look how well it did. But for me, I'm afraid I agree with that. I want to talk about crossing the moving average. This is 50 and 200 days. That's a hell of a lagging moving average. I'm not sure I'd take a heck of a lot of account of that one. It's not gelling. You're quite right. I mean, because the banks are going bust, a few more can go bust, great, then we'll go further higher up. If your banks are going bust, you've got other things to worry about. And as I said, if you don't want to put your money in there, even though you've now got it guaranteed by the depositor, and you still not trustworthy enough, I'd rather buy Krugerrands. I'll tell you what, Farney. Is Mika still here? Anybody? Farney, Mika, Maris, anybody? You've got a choice now. You've got to take your money out of the bank because you're frightened. Where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it under the bed? Let's say you got R1 million. Now make it 2 million rand in the bank. Huh? Are you going to put it under the bed? Are you going to put it under the bed? Or are you going to start buying up equity at this level? Or are you going to buy Krugerrands? Or what were you going to do with it if you're going to take it out of the bank? Where are you going to put the money to take it out of the bank?
At this point in time, what I will do personally, and I wish I could do it with my pension fund, is just buy gold, sit on my hands and look at what's going to happen, because I did see there's a lot of analysts start comparing now the bank crisis with the 2008 situation.
The Lehman bank folding and the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, yeah. The big building societies. Yeah. So yeah, gold. I died properly in gold, yeah. Remember, the problem, if you're on a pension, you're not getting a dividend or an income from gold. That's the only situation. And on a pension, you need that income to live off. So it's slightly different in that case. But yeah, I'm saying, despite all that, you've got 2 million rand. You don't trust the bank. It's very dangerous to put it in your house. And you'll certainly, like, well, if your house not getting interest anyway, like gold. There's no opportunity cost. Rather have it in gold. Gold is nice and safe, not stuck in a little house there. Yeah, and the more the fear comes, the more people are going to go to gold anyway. And look how gold's gone up in tandem with the markets. You know, if the markets go up, it usually means happy days out there. People like the currency, like the dollar, the fiat currency, as mentioned by Nico. So therefore, that's when gold comes up. What happens in the dollar still hadn't certainly lately, but it has in the last couple of days, not too bad. But the market you'll know about goes up in tandem with gold. That means fiat is flying around there because it's out of sync. You know what I mean? It should be the opposite. If you're going into the market, you're probably less in gold. If you're going to the gold, you're frightened. So now, and so that's what I'll do. And that supports the gold price, because if you get more up there, never mind not getting a dividend interest rate, the capital gain you'd make on those Krugerrands will outweigh that anyway. Bitcoin, I don't know enough about. If you know about Bitcoin, you've certainly fair enough. Just remember, it's not regulated, John. Just remember, it's not regulated. But it doesn't say you can't get your money. It doesn't say you've got no one to complain to if you get false advice or complete BS advice or certain statements you're not allowed to say. We guarantee, and it doesn't happen. You can't. It's not worth the paper it's written on. It's not regulated yet. But but that's up to you. Okay, so yeah. So I hear you again, but I'm not sure I'll be buying it. I've stuck my neck out. I'm gonna stick with that. I've gone in. I've shorted it. So make your mind on what you want to do. If you have any doubts, remember you are going for the weekend. You want to have a reasonable, worry-free weekend, maybe just be a little bit circumspect. I chatted with the office guys this morning, who said, yeah, we'll understand if you don't not want to get trade ideas out today, let it settle a bit. No harm in that. And look at the ones you have. The end did come right in the end, but this one here, again, it's just getting nowhere. Look at this. Pops out, pops down, nice. It's a 15-minute. And it's popping up. It's not going anywhere. The GBP one we looked at there, some guys did like it. Anything happening there? It's on the 15-minute. So what are you getting at? 58. All right, maybe about breaking even now, but didn't tell you a lot. As long as you get to, yeah, if you get high dividend shares, you can, but often to make up these dividends, it's got to come from somewhere where you don't get much growth. So you do get growth shares with virtually no dividends, or limited growth and higher dividend. You've got that choice, yeah. Or even preference shares where you just pay your dividends and you're guaranteed. Something happens, you get paid out before the ordinary shares. Yeah, that's all interesting stuff. But you see, at least you're educated why these funny things happen. That's why it's important to come in here and we discuss this. Not just say the signal's gone wrong because you didn't know a fundamental came out or whatever. But I can tell you guys, I've been through these sort of times many times. So for me personally, it's a bit of an irritation. It's about it. Where it plays the heavier is because now I'm responsible for those signals, and I'm not even rude about them. That's not the point. The point, it's just a human thing. I don't like sending out. I'm going to use the four-letter word. You can add it. I don't like sending out shit. I like sending out great, and it gives me a hell of a kick when guys send me stuff. Say thank you, Signal. I did okay on that. It doesn't give me a hell of a kick when I've tried to Signal last week and it's not happening. And I'm sympathetic, and it's fair enough. Most don't get rude, actually. It's me who gets upset, not them. Well, they're upset, but it's me who takes it sort of, I don't like it. You see the different body language. We've got winning trades and trading when they're not. You always know what Roger's going to be like the trading room coming up if a couple of signals are going badly. You know what I mean? He's not getting me in a good mood. It's not the time to borrow money from me then. A lot of time and work building up this trust. It's thrown away because a couple of the market does funny things, you know. And even then, I say I'm sorry. This is what I made a mistake. Blah blah. At least that's a reason. When they ask me for reasons, I'm like, ain't funny. And you've done a bit of research yourself, and you coming out and saying it doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. Maybe, hopefully, we'll go to the weekend. So I'm in Brad, we know that anyway. It's gonna be hot rings, a bit of a profit. Shit, I'd just like to get this thing sorted. Getting a bit sick of this bloody thing. You start getting excited, it comes off, and then 15 minutes later, bounces back up again. So we need to get it moving, especially in my direction. There's a clock 100 times. 100 times in a row, you get heads or tails, or a 50% chance. Never best treason. Yeah. Yeah. Remember like the roulette table, every time you spin that ball, you have to go remember it. A lot of roulette tables put down the previous numbers. That's just emotional. They do it just because the punters like it. They think, oh, hang on. The last several numbers in the high end of the table, I'll start betting on those because it seems to be favoring that. That's just emotional nonsense. Every time it comes up, it's a new spin. But in theory, over 100 spins, you shouldn't get 100 blacks or 100 reds. Much to say is, here's some money. I want to go only on black and red and lose 10 times in a row. It's just as difficult to win 10 times in a row. You know, black or red's coming up. So that's the basis of it, yeah. But the thing is, I know that because I'm doing it for maybe you. A lot of guys out there, some have just started. And, you know, and then you might, let's say you get 2 out of 3, but they might get, the first 3 might be bad. That's what it hurts. The one thing you might get despondent, but if you get the position size right, at least you're still in the game. And unfortunately, a lot of guys don't know that, and yeah, they're not in the game anymore. Anyway, finally, just remind me the euro dollar. Did you get out of the profit in the end on that one? Well, you're still in.
No. I just got out before the dollar changed around. So I got out with a grand profit of $1, but no loss at least. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, okay. So at least you didn't lose. And I tell you what, $1's a heck of a lot better than the loss. So good. And trading is a marathon, not a sprint. You're quite right. You see, again, you've got to understand it. Right, you've got to understand. I'm bloody sure you know already. There's too many people coming into this wanting a fast result and not the slightest bit of interest in the vehicle to use it. You know what I'm saying? Why go into football and not table tennis? Because I've heard there's more money in football. That's the reason they're going into it. And, you know, if you're not interested in football, you're not going to be any good at it. And that's the problem. There's too many coming in wanting a quick solving of their financial problems. And often to do that, they're sold sometimes on rather unrealistic expectations, putting it rather hopefully diplomatically. And that's when the disappointment comes in heavier. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you put in 10 grand and you only made, let's say, 1,000 rand in a month. That's 120% a year, but you're disappointed because you're led to expect you're going to make 10 grand a month. So inevitably, that phenomenal return of 120% means you're going to be highly disappointed because your expectations were just far too high to be consistently achievable. And that's basically because the emotions take over the thinking. If you look back at percentage returns, how can that possibly be consistently achieved? Yeah? I remember doing that once, actually, about 3 years ago. I put the expectations in over things about a 15-year period. And I said, with your 5,000 rand, with that sort of thing, you'll be worth more than the Apple Corporation. In fact, you'll be worth more than the entire GDP of South Africa. Do you think that's likely? So he looked at me and says, well, is it? Didn't know quite what to say to that. I just had me flummoxed there. Is it? 5 grand in 15 years be worth more than the entire South Africa? Yeah, okay. That's when it, yeah, you get my point. Well, maybe it should come off a bit, maybe get some, maybe a little break this bloody area here and get some movement. Let's see the GBP, CHF come off somewhere in it. I know I am. Maybe that'll come off. Maybe that's a profit for me now. That's something. What's the NAS doing? Anything happening on the NAS? Bugger all. You might be right on this one. I certainly ain't buying it. It's a bit tough now because I'm short it. But I might be wrong on this one. Ken might be right. But look at it. Look at the 15-minute chart. One of the most volatile instruments going. Look at that. It's a completely tiny range. Look at the range on the NAS. Less than 30 pip range on it. It's ridiculous. Okay, right. Sorry. Beg your pardon. I've just got to go to the little boys' room. Okay, right. Anything you want to look at? The Dow's off. I think it's sorted out. Yeah, I mentioned this morning. It's back in business. And maybe I might go for it, actually. Yeah, I'm going to go for this. Just give me a second. It's a daily, yeah. I want a decent stop here. I'm stopping now. I'm just going to make sure. Start the way. A bit wider. Just like this. So say you do, I quite like it. Okay, if anyone likes to look at the Dow, go to the micro. Okay, anyone like to look at the Dow? I mean, Ken won't, looking to buy it. Anyone's going to shorten the Dow? Decent stop up here somewhere. or a leave alone game the weekend. Put it up for you guys you want. Short is good. Why would you get out, Vicky? If you suffered long enough, why stop the suffering? Suffer a bit longer. No, I'm staying with it. It's up to you if you want. I don't think it's in a profit yet anyway. You've got your strategy. It's up to you. Anyone look at this? Temby likes it. See if you want it. I'll put it up for you anyway and tell what you want to do. I want to stop out of the way, so I'll put it up here somewhere. So above these guys here, we get a TP down. Weekly, get a decent TP. I think we take it down there. 31440, call it. And even though the wine stopped like that, I'm on the weekly. But I'm just going to make it a slightly wider stop on the weekly. Okay, right. Even we'll call it 80 bucks a micro. Right. The stop's out of the way. It's above the 50 week, and it's above the 200 day, and obviously above the 10 day. Yeah, and so a little bit of support resistance just above there. It's above that as well. Yeah. What do you think? Depends on the dollar more than the Aussie, Nico. I'll have a look in a minute. If you believe the dollar's going to strengthen a bit, I'm not sure I'll be buying it. But I think there's a chance the dollar might strengthen a bit. When all this nonsense cooled down, I think the dollar might sort of start getting a bit higher up. Maybe we'll see. Don't forget Powell next week, Wednesday, interest rate decision. And it's quite crucial again, because, as I say, maybe you can do it on the release of it. Might even do a if you want the trading, we're not going to put it out there. No, we won't be able to. It's 8 o'clock at night. But if you want to do a buy stop, sell stop, maybe we can discuss it on your own back, okay, for the interest rate decision. Having said that, even some guys are talking now it might be 0 or 0.25% because the banks are having problems with these continuing increase of interest rates of the guys out there, the punters, the debtors paying back their loan. Yeah, a bit Chinese to me as well, my friend. Yeah, before me. Okay, nobody wants to do it? Anyone do this one or leave it? What do you reckon? Just leave it on for a minute, give guys a chance. William's going to take it. Okay, that's fine. Written it down. Good to see me. And we don't want to do the NASDAQ again. Is that correct? We leave the NAS. Maybe twice do one or the other. This is the 3 dots of micro. Okay. By the way, updated 0.1 is the maximum size you go on the micro. So you got more money. The idea is to go on the normal. Micro area is purely for those to give a chance. The smaller accounts get a chance to actually trade it, get guys off the demo, and etc. But if you suddenly find 0.1 on the micro is like 0.01 on the normal, and you find that's just not worth your while, just make up the rest on the normal one. Simple as that. Ken's for a buy, I'm for a seller. I'm in on the down on micro, just out of interest. But if you want to sell it, you can, and leave alone, you can. If you think I'm good enough free margin going for both, that's up to you. But when you say I maybe prefer to short the NAS instead of the Dow, that's what I'm discussing there. The rest is your choice. I'm in on the sell, so obviously going to support the sell, yeah. Any comments, guys?
Yeah, mate, I still say with the Nazi, I'll wait for a breakthrough. If it breaks through there, daily, I'll see how it does tonight. And then I'm gonna buy it if it breaks and closes above all those weeks. Or maybe if it goes back to around about 120, 1204, because I see a bit of a range there.
But that something radical happens going to come back that tomorrow. The thing is, if you take it above the break up there, the likelihood of it getting to 13,000 or just above that is very high probability. If it takes out this wick here, that chance of it going to 13,000 or slightly higher is extremely high probability. The problem is, would you get a risk reward? So you get at 12.9, you're aiming, let's say 13, or you only got a 100 pip target. You get my point. So if even it breaks through, you've got to start aiming at 13.5. I have not the slightest clue of any area of fundamentals, Chinese or English, out there that's going to support a rally up to that level. There's far too many hassles out there. The bank's being rescued via liquidity. It's a damage limitation. It's not good news. Remember Churchill in the last war, they're all celebrating Dunkirk, and he had to cool them down. Retreating successfully is not a victory, you know. And Dunkirk was a defeat. Yes, everyone saw it as a miracle, getting them off the beach, etc. But it was still a defeat. They retreated. It's not a victory. It's a retreat. You get the idea. And that's the basis of my thinking. So that is just, if that goes up to 13,000 or above that, I think it's more some sort of immovable thing. Like Tesla gave us $2,000 because we think he's not a bad lad. We want to support him because we like him, even though it's way, way, way over the price of the company compared to the product profit they're making. At the dot-com bubble, where people are buying, selling dot-com companies when they, you know, when they hadn't even produced a product, not even made it sold any, on just an idea. It's getting so, you know, like bidding up to $100,000 on Bitcoin. The greed fury sort of takes it, and if you get there, bidding it up way above its value till it clicks and off it comes. Sometimes it's, and most of them are. If you go to investing.com, some of the stuff, it'll say gold's at 1840, and then you look at ours, it's 1835. Market makes it takes from a major dealer desk, and then they'll put their slight difference in price to cover them, and then take it from there. It doesn't matter. If you go to a broker and says that's 12.9, it comes off 200, it comes from 12.9 to 12.7. This should come from 12.7 to 12.5. So still get you 200. So don't worry about that. Remember, it's called a market make for a reason. Makes the bloody market. Provides liquidity, and quite frankly, it becomes a counterparty. As I said, it's a zero-sum game. It's not stuff conjured out of thin air. If you lose 1,000 rand, somebody out there has made it. If someone's taken the opposite position. If you sold, someone's obviously bought it. Yeah, different slight price differential there. But I still see, technical or no technical, shooting through there is, I think, a motion reaction to damage limitation rather than fundamental levels of just saying this is great stuff yet. I will say one thing, mitigation tech stuff is the Googles and the Apples, the Microsofts, etc. They still rule the world. I take your laptop away from you, I take your phone away from you, take your Wi-Fi away from you. Everyone sitting here, listen to this. I guarantee every single one of you, you've got a problem. Be honest now. Yeah, you do a Wi-Fi, internet, a computer, a cell phone for a month. You won't be able to function. We're dependent on it in today's society. Like 1,000 years ago, they didn't need electricity. Now we're dependent on it. The society is completely structured on that basis. Okay. To be honest, thank you guys. I'm looking forward to this trade. It's doom and gloom last couple of days. I've actually enjoyed this trading this morning and the week a lot more than I would. Thank you very much for helping me sort of make it a bit more entertaining. And quite frankly, coming out with a few positives as well. That's what you need, hey, Ken? If you're a bit down, you need someone to lift you up. You know, and hopefully I'll do it the other way around sometimes. I know I'm short them, so I can't say close the trade and a loss when I'm short the thing. I'm not short the FTSE, I'm the Dow, as I mentioned, but still we're EGEFG. Here we are. I'm surprised that took out where the daily took it out. But what is going to put that? And if you think the Dow's going to come off and the Nasdaq's going to come off, why should this go up? Yeah. If you got your stop in, I presume you have Angler, stick with it. It makes not make a lot of sense, but usually when people start sobering up, they see it a bit more rationally. I hope this weekend they're going to sober up a bit and come back with some decent movements down, because that to me is a bit silly at the moment. I don't see anything, and I'm not expert in economics on the economy in the UK, but from just an overview, I don't see that the UK economy is so starkly bloody wonderful to push it back up to 8,000. So if it does, either a rational economic we can know about, or some irrational emotions. And I think that's the dominant part in the irrational emotions, my opinion. Okay, so I personally stick with it. And I hope I'm right, because I hardly want to stick with it, not close it. And instead can take a 10-unit loss, you take a 20. I'm sorry about that. It's not my opinion, it's your decision. I personally would stick with it. And I have to say that because I advise sell on the NAS and the Dow if you wanted to take it. So I hardly say buy this or get that out. I think the other's going to come off. Because they tend to, not in tandem, but I don't expect to see the Dow come off and the FTSE shoot up. Not to say it won't happen, but it's very unlikely. Has it come off at all in the last few minutes? It's trying to anyway, so that's a bit of good news. What about our friend CAD, for our enemy CAD CHF? This a 15 minutes? Look at the wrong one. It's trying to break this on the 15-minute. Can you imagine with this on the 15 minutes? Ridiculous. But it's trying. And what I do like, it's only 6 minutes. No, what am I talking about? 45. Yes, 11 minutes old. That's right. So it's 11 minutes old, and when it tried to pop up, I like the look of this sellers coming in. Look at that wick there. Hopefully that'll get us some bloody traction to where we want to go. Check out GBP CHF. Getting some traction at that level. 58, took it. So that's 20 pips in profit. So at least getting some traction there. 20 pips is okay. Yeah, so there we are. Okay, guys. Anything else before we finish up and wish everyone else have a happy weekend and hope we have smiles back on the face on Monday? Because I'm getting a bit stressed at the moment. May I tell you what, I'll do some retail therapy, go and buy a decent bottle of whiskey. How's that? Okay, Mika, good stuff. GR30, well, we don't overdo all the indices because you're getting short the indices. You know, if something goes wrong, you're not spread, you're not diversified. Just remember that. You don't want to be shorting the dollar on 4 different currencies or 6 different currencies or whatever, because you get the idea, because then you're too exposed to one specific currency. But if I think the gas are going to come off, I think that's going to come off as well. Trouble is, if I drink too much whiskey, I might start asking you to marry me, forgetting you're a guy. Hey, I'm just joking, panic not. Yeah, Yeah. I don't think even a bottle of whiskey would push me in that direction somehow.
No, I tend to agree. It's just making me relaxing and sleeping, not the
Yeah.
other way around.
But apparently, it's like hypnosis. It can't make you do what you wouldn't normally do. You know what I mean? Now, in fact, let's say I'm a hypnotist, but if I was, I'd make you relax a bit and do some things you say or do things you would inside you want to do or say, but it wouldn't make you do something you don't want. If you're not a thief or a murderer, I can hypnotize you, go and murder somebody. You're not going to suddenly go and do it. Apparently, I'm not exactly an expert, or so I'm told.
Well, I must tell you, Clippies and Coke, or brandy and Coke, that have a negative effect in aggressiveness with quite a lot of people.
Yeah, that's it. That reminds me, this is years ago now. We used to call that the Afrikaner going down to Durban from Joburg, the 1, 2, 3 brigade. We used to watch it, a litre of Pippies, 2 litre of Coke, and a 3 litre Cortina. Now it's quiet now. It's quiet now because you were one of them, mate. You had a 3 litre Cortina and you had 2 litres of Coke and a litre of Pippies.
Past the Clippies. I get grown up now. It's much better.
Okay, on a serious note, have a great weekend. That's a trading room directive. Have a good weekend. You have no choice about it. So hopefully it'll be a bit more profitable and we get back to our happy chappies, happy campers on there again, and have some fun with the Fed on Wednesday evening. Okay, guys, have a good one and keep your fingers crossed. Cheers. Don't forget Anne-Marie backwards as well. Okay, cheers.